Hi everyone, this is Grace of GB Maltese, and I thought I would do a little paint with me with my diamond painting that I received from VictoriasMoon from the UK. To see, as you can see, I have done some of the squares already. I've done some of the black ones, and I'm going to just chat and talk to you. As you can see, I am doing the checkerboard method. That's my favorite way to do my squares. And I did choose a square painting from VictoriasMoon, and I'm going to put a link below if you want to check out their website and save 10%. I have a 10% off coupon that you can use as many times as you would like. I found some more that I do want to order from there, but I want to get working on this. The squares so far have been pretty good. I don't have any complaints. They're going on there nice and easily. There's no popping drills. They fit not real tight, but they're tight enough. They're not leaving just huge gaps. And you'll be able to tell more about that when I get more done and show you more up close. But it's kind of hard to tell with just this much done. I need, maybe a good fourth of it done. But I wanted to work it so you can see how it is when I'm doing the squares. I have had some people that want to see some squares being done. I have done a video on how I do the checkerboard method. It's not the only way that you can do these. Now, if I put one on here crooked, I will take it off and reset it. And the reason I do is this tape on here is very, very sticky. You're not going to have to worry about any of these falling off. It is very sticky. Once you put it, commit to it. If you don't, let's say you put it on crooked. Say I go ahead and put it on there, and I have it crooked. I can't move it very much. I just take my nail, I just peel it off and do it again. So I'm going to go right here. When I do the checkerboard method, I find a blank space beneath and put the one right above it. And that's all there is to it. Find a blank space beneath and put it down. Just like that. Find a white spot. Well, white in this case, because the white areas on here are actually the blacks. So this should be interesting to see how all that's going to turn out. As I'm looking at this, and as you can see, I don't see any white showing under the black that I've done. There's nothing, no white showing. So far, I'm impressed. I love this picture. I did a video, an unboxing of this, and I can link that video below also if you want to see what this looks like. It's so difficult to move it around once I have opened it and started putting it down, because the picture is on the canvas itself. And one thing I did, I'm working from the bags, and I went ahead and I put symbols on the bag. Here's another one that I did. The symbols were very easy to draw. Just put them on there. So when I get to that symbol, I'll know which one. In fact, I went ahead and looked to see what I had a lot of next, so I go ahead and do that. So let me go along, put them down. I hope that you're having a lovely day today. It is a very warm day today here in Texas. We had some rain yesterday, and wow, was it wonderful. It must have dropped the temperature at about 10 degrees. It was lovely. It really was. Makes you want to have a few more days of that. But that's... just be thankful for what I had, I suppose. I am happy about that. I have decided to mentor a first year. Well, she's not a first year teacher, but this is going to be her first year to teach ESL. So I did ESL for 10 years. She has never done it. I met her on Monday. She's very, very sweet. I'm looking forward to working with her and showing her all the loops and things to do. She's new to our district also. And so I mentored 2 years after I retired. And then last year I didn't do anything at the school. But when they called me this year and told me they had someone that was going into the ESL, I decided I'm going to help her because it is kind of different than anything other subject at the junior high. It's kind of on its own. And there's lots of paperwork. The government makes you keep up with a lot of stuff. So I was kind of thrown into it when I started, and I would like to be able to help. I helped another one out doing this before, and it's nice when you can help somebody. The one thing, talking about doing the checkerboard, the one thing that I love about the checkerboard method is once I have quite a few of these done, I just go through in here and just start plopping them into those spaces. And I think it looks kind of cool when it's done like this. But I'll go through and start popping some of those in there in a little bit. I want to get some more of this done so I have more fun. Okay, I put that completely in the wrong place. And some people are worried about doing squares. Squares are a little bit more fiddly. You've got to be a little more exact because it has to go into the square and to be straighter. They will straighten a little bit, but this is so sticky that if you really don't want to spend the time on that, it doesn't bother me. I enjoy whether I'm working fast or slow. It's very pleasant for me. But if you want something more relaxing, pick one of the round ones. I think that every one of theirs that I saw was both round and squares. I think you could get both, and lots of size ranges. They have a lot of pictures to choose from. I was very impressed with the choice. The selection was really, really nice. So I'm just taking my time going along here. I did find that the metal tip, because I like to use these with the plastic tips also, I found that the metal tip seems to work better with the squares. I just messed with the plastic tip just a little bit. I've got some more coming, and I'm going to see how it works with this pen that I'm using. This is one that I ordered off of a Facebook group, and I have put the link to that group before, and I can put it down there again. And Crafting by Chris, I have some of hers. My favorite are the wooden pencils, the wooden drill pens. These are my favorite. They're lightweight, but you've got enough to hold on to. I know a lot of people only want the acrylics, but the weight bothers me. Now, I did get some that were straight, and I haven't really worked with them too much because I'm thinking if they're straighter, maybe they won't be so heavy. So those I got from a group, but it took months and months to get it. There's a long waiting list. So it depends on how long you want to wait to get your pen. Some groups have, if you go into Facebook and type in diamond painting pens or handmade diamond painting pens or something to that effect, you're going to see some different groups pop up, and you'll be able to see what they have to offer. And there are a lot of people ordering these and sometimes the wait is quite lengthy. On this pen I have right here, they were just kind of starting that group out, so I didn't have to wait months. I only waited, 2 or 3 weeks. But I think that they have a lot more people in their group now. And people love these things. But a lot like to get the acrylic ones. I probably got my hand right in your face where you can't see anything. Move it. Try to fix this where you can see what I'm doing. Let's see. But the acrylics, like I said, are kind of heavy for me, and my hand gets tired, especially if I'm working on my easel. And I need to make a video of some of my supplies that I really enjoy working with. You know, sometimes you buy some things and you think, I wish I hadn't purchased this. I really don't need it and I don't use it. That's just like any other craft that we do. I've also been saying I wanted to do a video on my colored pencils because I have quite a few colored pencils and gel pens both, and lots of coloring books. There's been a lot of people showing their things. Mine are ones that I've had for quite some time and just haven't gotten around to it. I've been, like, one day I went to the school and to meet the lady I'm going to be working with, a young lady. This will be her 5th year teaching, and she has a new baby. So I know that's hard for her to come back. And today I was out again doing some things, but I wanted to come in and try to do a video when I got in. So maybe I'll start filling some of these in so we can see how that's going to look. So then I can kind of move this down where I can not having to reach up there where I can't see it as well. I've got several that I can start filling in. They look kind of like tiled flooring, don't they? This is the fun part for me. Is go in and just start filling the white spaces in. I've got some over here that I can do. I'll tell you what, I'm going to do these right in this area. Right in here. Let's see. You can see. Just going to start putting them in there. See how easy this part is? You just pick it up and then you put it down because you've already got it boxed off. It's not going to go crooked now. So this makes it kind of fun. Hear a little bit of popping. There's not tons of popping, but there is a little bit. There's one. Now that I go back and think about all the popping that I used to hear on some of mine, I'm thinking they were probably too big for the canvas, and I think they're trying to compensate and not make them quite so big because people really complained about the popping drills. Nobody wants them because you can't do it at all. If they're too big, you can't do your painting. So you can complain about them maybe not fitting as tight as you want, but if you get them too tight, then your chances of having popping drills are going to be a whole lot bigger. I'm trying to get that one in upside down. It doesn't work. Shake this a little bit and get a few lines going, so it's just easier. Okay. All right. Got some lines there. Now, okay, got another one that I kind of dropped in there sideways. If you put it in there sideways, it doesn't work. So, okay, this is the part that is fun with the squares. Once you have done your checkerboards, then the fun part comes, just filling those areas in. And this has a larger area of blacks, so I've got a lot more to fill in. It's fun to get these big color blocks. I'll have a big, well, not a big block, but I'll have some other areas that I'll be able to do. Now, I had kind of mentioned in my last video that I would tell you the story of my daughter's leg being ripped open on an escalator. And I do mean ripped. It wasn't cut, it was ripped open. And this happened when she was 2.5 years old. So it's been, my daughter is 32 right now. So it's been about 30 years. It's been a long time ago that this happened, but it's just like it happened yesterday. It was horrifying. We went, it was the end of the week, it was a Friday evening, and Friday evenings we usually went to Humble, which is a bigger town than where we live, and they have a mall there. Well, we'd always go and take Catherine, and we'd go out to eat, go see a movie or whatever. Well, this time we had gone out to eat, and then we were going to just kind of look around at the mall. So I went into a health food store. Yeah, I used to do more healthy things at one time in my life. So I went in there, and Catherine and Jerry's my husband, were just walking around. Okay, you know, she's 2.5, and she knows if you're going to get on that escalator, you hold mommy or daddy's hand. That was one thing I drilled into her. She wasn't one of those kids who ran up and down the escalator. You've seen them. And that always scared me. Escalators have always terrified me. The main thing that was stepping on it and getting my shoe caught up in there, or falling down from the top. You know, crazy things. But what happened to my daughter is so bizarre, I would have never dreamed it could have happened. Well, my husband and Catherine got on the escalator, and about halfway down, my husband heard my daughter whimper. Okay, I was in the health food store, so I wasn't there. Didn't see or hear anything. He heard her whimper. And so he looked down at her, and he saw her kind of grabbing at her leg. So he picked her up. Her leg was gaped open. You could see it was her right leg, and the calf muscle was just hanging down. You could see bone and muscle in there. My husband took it and picked her up and held it together. When I was in the health food store, I heard my name being called, Grace! And I thought, I'm hearing things. Why would my husband be hollering for me in the mall? Then I heard it again, and I'm like, oh my God, what has happened? I'm going out of the store, and here comes my husband running up, holding Catherine in his arms. He's holding her leg squeezed together like this. Let's see if I can get my arm down here. Because it was open all the way from almost her whole leg, and he was holding it together, and pieces of her leg was on his hand. So he's holding her leg together, and he's hollering at me, Catherine got her leg cut on the escalator. Well, we didn't know what had happened. All we knew was that our daughter was severely injured. It was a miracle that it did not cut or did not break an artery, or she would have died. There's no way we would have gotten to the hospital in time. Okay, I remember I was panicking, and I remember looking at my daughter's face and her watching me. And all I could think of was, Grace, pull yourself together. You're scaring her. You have got to pull yourself together. You have got to be the strong one. You have got to stay calm and cool so that she can relax, or maybe not relax, but she never once screamed during this whole situation. They told me at the hospital she was in shock. She was just white as a sheet. And I remembered thinking, we'd just gotten potty trained and all of this stuff. And I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, is this going, is she going to have an accident? Make all the things that go through your mind. So we go running through the mall. And of course, the mall people by that time knew something had happened. And one of them met us with a first aid kit. I just looked at him and said, that first aid kit isn't going to help this. You need to get us an ambulance. You need to get us to the hospital. So they called an ambulance. I got on the ambulance with my daughter. And in the ambulance, they poured some type of liquid over her leg and kind of wrapped it. There was nothing they could do. We get to the hospital, and the doctor that's on duty looked at her leg, and all he said was, we're going to have to call in a plastic surgeon. I cannot do this. That's how badly ripped it was. So the plastic surgeon that they called was on the other side of Houston. So what we had to do is just leave the bandaging on, because after the doctor looked at it and he said, this is beyond what I can handle. I cannot do this. They kind of wrapped it back up again, and we waited. And I remember singing, Jesus loves you, Amazing Grace, Jesus loves the little children, anything I could think of to sing. And I just talked to her and told her she was doing such a good job, and I was so proud of her, and just singing to her. She never screamed. She never really said anything. As I said, they told me she was in shock. I remember seeing her little face was just white as a sheet. So we probably waited at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. It was a long time, because he was picking someone up at the airport on the other side of Houston and then had to come back through. So we're waiting and waiting and waiting. When he gets there, he asks us, did y'all eat anything? And I'm like, yes, we had supper. He said, then I cannot, put her under. I can't give her anything. She's going to have to be awake. I was mortified that they were going to have to sew my daughter's leg up while she was awake. What they did is he unwrapped it. Okay, this cut is several inches long, down her leg. I don't know, 4 inches through, think of a 2.5-year-old's leg. It was almost the whole leg. And it was kind of at a curve, and pieces of meat were on side of her leg. But it was not bleeding. That was the miracle. Anyway, the plastic surgeon took out, he said, I'm going to have to deaden it, because I'm going to have to sew from the inside out. So he took the needle, and he gave shots inside the wound and all the way on the outside. 2 shotfuls. And my little girl, all she did, I was holding her hand. I said, just squeeze my hand, sweetheart. And all she did was go, ow, 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 ow. She never screamed. She was just saying, ow. That was just killing me. Yeah, like I said, it's just like it happened yesterday. She was so strong and brave. Anyway, after he had done that, I just held her hand, and, she laid back, and he started sewing her up from the inside, doing layers up. There were so many stitches, he didn't count. There's we have no idea how many stitches she had. I'm sure it had to be in the hundreds. Then, after he finally got it all stitched up, It was bandaged, and everything that they could, did for her. They, the leg was still numb at that point. They gave us a prescription for pain medication for her and told us to go home. Okay, at this time it's probably around midnight. This all probably happened, I'm guessing, around 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock. I can't remember. It seemed like an eternity. Like, her leg is all bandaged up, and they tell us to not let her walk around on it for the next week. She goes back to the doctor to get it checked the next week. Okay, she's 2.5 years old, and my child is she was a little busybody. Of course, the first couple of days she was in La La Land a lot. She was in a lot of pain. We had to give her pain medication. I remember that night. Jerry and I had her sleep in between us in the bed so that of course, neither one of us slept at all. Catherine did go to sleep. She was medicated, and she went on to sleep. I kept looking to make sure that I keep lifting the covers up. I had her leg propped up on a pillow. It was supposed to be propped up and all this other stuff. And I checked to make sure that it was propped up, that the bandage hadn't come loose, that maybe it hadn't started bleeding. Neither one of us slept. It was horrible. And my poor husband, he was blaming himself the whole time that it was his fault. And I'm like, Jerry, you did everything right. It was not your fault. You did nothing. Okay. We're talking like 30 years ago. Just for the plastic surgeon to sew her up was $3,000. And the mall was going to supposedly pay for the doctor bills and her medical bills, because there was negligence on their part, and we'll get to that in a moment. Anyway, for that week, I, of course, spoiled her rotten. I would put her in her stroller and push her around whichever room she wanted to be in. I bought bubbles for her to do, because she loves to do stuff. Got coloring books, just all kinds of things to keep her entertained. So she wouldn't get up. I told her, I said, you can't get up and walk. The doctor said no. And she was pretty good about that. It was a scary incident for her, to say the least. For years, I had to carry her. If we got on an escalator, at that point, I quit using escalators unless there was no elevator around. And Catherine would have me carry her. I had to hold her up until she was, well, I mean, she wasn't grown or anything, but it was a few years, considering she was only 2.5. It was quite some time that I was carrying her. And when I called about, payments, the hospital had their part, and the doctors was just, his part was only, it was $3,000 in itself, which today is a lot of money, but back then that was a whole lot more money, and we were young, and so what happened was that the mall people blamed the escalator people. The escalator people blamed the mall, and then they pulled in the maintenance people, who are supposed to keep the edges of the escalator siliconed, so that if something gets against it, it just slides. Like if your skin got against it, it should have just slid right off of it. Well, it wasn't siliconed, obviously, and we don't know what else. Okay, well, they're trying to blame each other whose fault that was. So that, I almost had a nervous breakdown, and the next 4 years that we spent fighting that battle. My daughter's leg, he had sewn it with stitches that dissolve, but for months, you would find stitches creeping up out of her skin that you'd pull out, little black pieces of thread that would have worked themselves up that didn't completely dissolve. And I would rub her leg with vitamin E every day, I think 2 or 3 times a day, I can't remember how many times, to try to make the scar smaller. Okay, this scar is this wide going up and down her leg, and there are dips all the way in it where pieces of her leg were missing. So I wanted that to be fixed. I'm like, her leg isn't only injured, it has been basically kind of deformed. And I said, I want that paid for. You know, my daughter does not deserve this. It was, so it all started. We got a lawyer. We got a company of lawyers. And Catherine was healing, and we, had to be very careful not to get it in the sun and all those things. She was terrified of escalators. She was in pain for weeks and weeks. This wasn't something that, if I can find pictures, I'll find them if you're interested in me showing them to you at some point. And this was taken a week after when we went back to the doctor and they took the bandage off, and then we had to bandage it back up after that. I'll never forget. When we got our lawyers, he wanted to know if we had taken pictures of her leg after it happened. Okay. This isn't the day before you have phones, cell phones, that are taking pictures. How many of you carried cameras along with you when you went shopping at the mall? Well, we didn't, and we were an hour away from home, and I certainly was not going to leave her at the hospital to go grab a camera and take pictures. But yeah, this lawyer we got, he was a pure butt. And you'll see what I mean when I go through a little bit more with him. So, we've got Catherine situated. She's healing. We're taking care of her. Then we get this law firm, that's located in Houston. And they're supposed to be really good. Well, they assigned this lawyer to us. Okay, we went and met with him. And that was the time that he said, did you take any pictures of the injury? I'm like, no. I wasn't thinking of taking pictures at that point. So we had to take pictures. That's when we knew to take pictures when we went to the doctor. So I think he told this over the phone. Boy, that part was, I've tried to erase them. That lawyer, his words. So we did get the pictures of her leg a week afterwards, and it still looked awful. You could tell that some horrible damage had happened to this child. We went and met with a lawyer. I didn't take Catherine. I wasn't going to put her through that. Showed him the pictures, and we talked about it. And he told me, well, go back and pretend like you're just somebody going and asking questions, and ask him, has anyone else, and has anyone ever been injured on one of your escalators? Well, I shouldn't have been the one to go do that, or had to have done that. But I did, and they're not stupid. They said, are you the one whose little girl got hurt? And I said, yes. And I said, my lawyer wanted me to find out, if, he's not stupid. He knew I was asking for a reason. And he said, not that he knew of. Well, they don't have to tell me diddly squat. And I don't know whether they did or not. I didn't have proof. All I knew was that my daughter, and that's all that mattered to me, was that my daughter had been injured. She suffered, and she had a leg that was It was awful. And, okay, I go back to the lawyer, or I called him, one or the other, and I told him. He said, yeah, I probably shouldn't have had you do that. I'm thinking, you fool. So, he doesn't call me for weeks and weeks. I started calling and leaving messages with his secretary, and I said, could you please have him call me so I can see what's going on? Well, he never called. And so one time when I called and left a message, I told his secretary, I said, I have called, and I had a log of when I called this many times, and he has never returned my phone calls. He has never called me back, never answered my calls. So she must have told him, because he called me right back and he said, how can you say that? I have bent over backwards for you. I'm like, you haven't done anything. I have called you all these times and you've never called me back. So it just went on and on. Okay, you can just imagine a person with anxiety, what this was doing. Yeah, I pretty much almost had a nervous breakdown during this whole period. Panic attacks were rampant just because my daughter had been injured. But then to have to deal with this guy. Then we met with him again, and he was saying he wasn't sure how well our case would go. He said, because my wife, she was telling me, she has a birthmark that she was born with. And she said, I didn't cause myself to be born with this birthmark, and I don't have anybody paying to have it fixed or whatever. We're going to have to pay to get it done. And I'm thinking to myself, you've got to be kidding me. You're comparing this to your wife being born with a birthmark? How much pain and suffering did she go through when it happened? So, I was never so happy as when I got a phone call and that lawyer had left that firm and opened up his own firm, and we had some new lawyers on the case. They were so nice. We finally went into mediation. They decided they wanted to do mediation instead of taking it to court. So in mediation, you have an impartial judge, and you and your lawyers are in one room, and the escalator and I think the mall people were in another room with their lawyers. Okay. They come in there and give me a figure of what they would pay. I just started laughing. It wasn't enough to pay the medical bills. And I had already talked with her pediatrician and with the plastic surgeon as to how much it would cost to have the huge scar. It had developed scar tissue all in it, and it was horrible. And to find out what it was going to cost, so she didn't go through life with that, something that had not happened to her before. It wasn't her fault. So I said, okay, no, that offer is not okay. So it went on. This went on for hours and hours. And the judge told me, because I thought, I'm saying, my daughter suffered. I don't want anything. This isn't for me. This is for her. She's the one who suffered. She's the one. You have no idea the pain and suffering she went through. You should have seen her face and what she went through when it happened, and then the recovery time. And the judge said, that's the smartest thing I've heard in this room so far. The lawyers looked kind of sheepish. But they finally came to an amount that I agreed with. And the lawyers were shocked at the amount that we were finally able to get for her pain and suffering. I'm not talking hundreds of thousands, but we did get, we got some money. And the lawyers put it into a mutual fund for her. We didn't have to put it in the court, because it was locked so that it would gain interest. So by the time she was 18, the checks would be written out to my daughter, not to us. They were all for her. And it was used to help pay for some of her college. And we paid things. She still had money left over when she got out of college because we paid for a big portion of her things. So she still had some money left over to help with her wedding. She got married. But I still, to this day, cannot, well, I will never forget what it was like. I will never forget the look on her face. That was the worst part of the whole thing, is watching my child suffer the way she did and saying, ow, ow, ow. That will never leave my memory, ever. Bravest, strongest child I know. I just couldn't. And then all my friends and teacher friends and the people that came to see her and brought her little gifts and things, they could not believe what she'd been through. And they were all terrified of escalators at that point also. No one had ever dreamed. My fears had always been falling down them, for her to fall, or to get her foot hung up at the bottom. I never dreamed in the middle of that escalator, her little leg was caught, and as the plastic surgeon said, it was a miracle that the calf of her leg was not pulled off. So it was a very, very scary period of time. That, of course, I will never forget as long as I live. She doesn't remember all of that happened. She just knows she still has that scar there. It is much smaller. If, like I said, if you're interested, I can show you some pictures. I know some people don't want to see things like that, but so I didn't bring them in here to show you. In fact, I've got them put away. It's not something that I take out and look at. It's not something I want to see, but she was such a little doll. And all I can say is thank the Lord above it didn't pull her leg off, and that we were able to get the surgery done to have her leg repaired. She was 6 years old. Like I said, it took 4 years, so she was over 6 years old when we finally were able to get her leg repaired. And so she again had to go through pain and suffering with that. And of course she was in school. It was quite, she had to wear a bandage for a long time for both of these. But I had her in private school at that time. I wouldn't send her to public at that period. I needed her to be so careful with her leg. And she was in private school for a little bit. The way she was when she first started school, she was a little monkey. I was afraid I'd have the principal calling me every single day. So that's a whole nother story about Catherine. She, on a happy note, that didn't keep her down. Oh no. She kept on going, and she's a wonderful, wonderful young lady. And I'm just pleased that she's mine. That she's my daughter. And that everything did come out good at the end, but it was a period of time that was a big struggle. And people can do things to you to make you really miserable, as I just told you in this little story, except it was true. Can't make something like that up. Anyway, I'll move on to something else. You know, when I was telling the story, I was kind of reliving it, and I'm not even sure what I said. That's kind of how far back. I'm not sure if I told everything or not. It was a living nightmare. That's all I can say. But she made it, and she's one strong person. She always has been. I remember, you know, she dealt with so much pain at that time. I remember when she was invited to go roller skating. This was, I guess maybe she was 5. I can't remember. She might have been a little older. But the mother of the her son, that her party it was for, she said, that girl, she said, she'd fall down on that hard ground on those skates and get right back up and keep on going, just having the best old time. She said, I've never seen a girl that tough. And she is. She wasn't one who, if she fell down, she didn't come running and crying. I think, you know, after you've been through something like that, I guess the other stuff is small stuff. But I fought for my child. Those lawyers couldn't believe it. And I know you mothers out there would be the same way. The things we will do for our children, don't mess with them. You know, they are our babies, and we will fight back. Whatever we have to do for them, we will do. But she did well in life, and she's married, works hard, and I so enjoy going to see her, and we like to go and do things together. Sometimes we just want to watch TV together. We just enjoy. I love to be with her. Don't get to see her as much as I want to. It's quite a drive to get to her home. Takes me about 4.5 to 5. Depends on traffic. And luckily, the speed limit between here and Dallas, most of the places it's 75 miles per hour. And people are flying by you. I usually end up going around 79, 80, so that I don't get run into by the speeding people. So, yeah, I usually listen to a book on tape or something, or a CD. I have a CD player. They rent them at the library, the books on CDs, and you can also listen to them. YouTube has some books that you can listen to for free. Some people, I guess, have put recordings up. I don't know. The ones I've listened to have been professional recordings, even. And some people will read short sections of a book. I like to, if I'm driving somewhere, I want to hear it all at once, because I'm going for many hours driving. So, do any of you out there listen to books while you are diamond painting or driving or whatever? Or do you just listen to music? Sometimes I just sit in the quiet. It depends on my mood. You just never know. But look how nice this is looking. This, I'm really, you see how easily I'm putting this down? And there are not huge spaces in there. This is very easy. I don't even have my light board on because I didn't want to put any light. But I'm able to see, I can see all of these symbols. Of course, right now I'm just looking at a white space, which is really easy. But you can see all these other symbols just as easily, with or without it. I like to use a light board because it does make it a bit easier, and I don't want to have to strain my eyes too much, or at all, if possible. But I do need to do my video on the things I use. I'll have to show you when I have a big canvas like this, I'll work with it flat when I'm working on maybe the edges of it. But when I'm working in the center, that's when I will put it on my easel. I have a tabletop wooden easel, and I'll have to show that to you. I also have a smaller one, but I haven't been using that as much because I have to use that with a small canvas. But I do use it if I'm coloring. I can sit on the couch, and it's metal and has a nice little wooden top or some laminate or something top, and you can tilt it at any angle. So it's nice to just sit on the couch to color with. Sometimes I color while I'm sitting at the table. It just depends on my mood, probably like anybody else, the rest of you out there, when you're doing different things. Depends on where you feel like sitting. If I'm crocheting, I'm usually sitting on the couch. Crochet, you don't have to have anything lying on the table, but you have to bend over. And that was one reason that I got my tabletop easel. I was working on a 60 by 90 canvas, and I was hurting my neck, my back. It's getting a bit sore. So that was the main reason I got that. So I could kind of relax. So sometimes I'm doing it straight flat on the table, and other times I'll go get my little easel. Well, it's not little, it's heavy. I got one of the bigger sized ones for my big ones, and I just put my light board on it. I also have a small metal piece that if the canvas isn't real big, that I can use. So almost done with this row of doing my checkerboard. As you can see, it's very easy. I'm sitting here talking away, and you saw how easy it was when I started just filling them in. That is fun. That's my favorite part. Just going through and don't even have to think about what you're doing. You just pop them little things on in there. Especially, you can only do sections like that when they're all the same color. And we've all had canvases that have big color block sections. Some canvases have a lot more than others. And you can do checkerboard with rounds also, but with the rounds, I will use my multi-placer. I have not used the multi-placer with squares because I want them straight, and I just don't think I can get them straight enough all at one time. And with this canvas being really sticky, as you can see, I'm having to pull some of them off and re-put them because I want it nice and straight. And some people say, oh, I just can't get them straight. It just takes practice. You should have seen my first one I did. It looked like a drunken sailor had done it. Probably a drunken sailor might have done a better job than I did. But they straightened out once I started putting them in there, so it wasn't too bad. You just keep going. Like I said, take your time. It's not a race. There's no rush. If somebody's waiting for you to do it, you just have to tell them, well, this is a very meticulous task. Do you want it to look good or not? The rounds, of course, you can get done quicker. So if you're going to do something for someone that wants it in a hurry, I would choose a round just because you can go faster. Now, if you do the checkerboard method, you see I am going much slower when I'm putting this row in, but when you start doing them checkerboards, honey, you can fly like the wind. You can enjoy it then. So, I'm almost done with my checkerboarding in this little area, and then I am going to bid you adieu so that you don't get sick of listening to me and can watch others. I try not to make a whole bunch of long ones because there are other people making videos. I know that, and I don't want to be a hog. You can't have long ones all the time, but I do love talking with you guys and just sharing a little bit about myself. I hope that you enjoy my little, well, kind of a sad remnant, and here I am still talking and filling these in, because look at this. This is just so, this part is so much fun. Just flies on in there. Back when I was telling my true story, I don't even remember, I hardly remember even putting these things down. Like I said, I just was back in that moment. And it felt, I was having some of the same feelings. I have to kind of be careful when I go backwards to some bad times that I don't bring on a panic attack or something. So I could feel myself getting a little bit, so I'll try to pull myself back up. Don't want to get too involved. That was in the past. Everything came out. So that's all that matters. Everything worked out fantastically. I'm not, don't hold grudges against anyone. What happened? It happened. There's no sense in worrying about it now. I'm just, thank God that we made it through that period of time, because there were some points of that period that I wasn't sure. That 4 years with those lawyers, let me tell you, it was tough. Okay, well, I think I will stop here, and you can see, let me kind of lift this up a little bit. Sorry about shaking you around. Okay, you can kind of see the squares, how they fit. I think they look nice. I think it looks pretty nice. Very shiny. I have got to say, this is very, the drills are very shiny on this. You can see that all the way down, how they look. But I wanted you to see me working on this, and I'm going to do some more working on this as time goes on until hopefully it'll be complete before long. I'm working on another one also, another big one that I want to get finished and show you because I like it. Okay, so I'm going to pull that off. I just wanted to make sure I didn't get anything stuck up there. I had my parchment paper stuck up there. Okay, I guess that is all for today. Hope you are having a wonderfully blessed day, and take care of yourselves. Talk to you guys later. Bye. Love ya.